right. Hey, this is Wayne and Cindy with the 416 Ministries. This is part of the interview series. Sitting here today with Brandon Greene, and it's good to catch up with you and good to be here this week. And let's just take a moment and introduce yourself and your family. Talk about where we are, because this is a pretty cool area.
Well, my name is Brandon Greene. I am the senior minister for the Oakey Blvd Church of Christ here in Las Vegas, Nevada. Yeah, it's Vegas.
It's Vegas. It's Vegas, man.
Yeah, right. No more to say. It's Vegas.
All right. Well, you are married and you have a family. So
Yes.
tell us a little bit about, introduce your family. I know they're not here right on
So
screen. With
I
us,
am married to the former Cynthia Sanchez. We have three beautiful girls, Layla, who's 6, Eliana, who's 5, and then our youngest, Aaliyah, and she is 9 months.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you're a very young family.
Yeah, very young family.
That's cool,
Very young
though.
family.
All right. And y'all have been here with the congregation as the minister, at least.
It will be 3 years September.
3 years.
Yeah.
All right. That's very good. And there's some interesting things. We'll talk more about the congregation and the work here and things like that, and get into that in just a moment. But I know also when we first met, you were coming to school at the Memphis School of Preaching. And so I want to talk about that for just a minute.
Okay.
Having graduated the Memphis School of Preaching. So tell us a little bit about the time, when you went, those years, and maybe some highlights or something that you picked up while you were there. So let's just talk about Memphis for a minute.
Well, so before Memphis, I had never lived outside of Las Vegas.
Okay.
I hadn't been to too many places back south. I mean, I think the furthest I've been was Florida, Disney World, which is, it's its own
That's
place,
different.
its own world. And then I think I've been to Atlanta, but I was a baby. So I really hadn't experienced the South. So it was very much a culture shock for me, going all the way to Memphis. But we had several students that came from our congregation that went. I was the last one, at least for now, the last one that went. I went in 2012 to 2014, graduated in 2014. You've interviewed some of my classmates, Jake Sutton. Jake Sutton was my roommate before he got married.
I got you.
And he was, he's a jokester.
He is. He is.
So that's a highlight. That's definitely a highlight. But I met some of my closest friends, Ronald Sanders Jr., who preaches out in Detroit now, and Matthew Charles Prince, who I believe he's running a orphanage now. So, those have been some of my close friends. But my time there, man, I thought I knew that I wanted to preach. I think when I got there in my first year, I didn't know if I wanted to do this. As the old saying goes, it's like, trying to drink from a fire hose. It was just a lot. I was told most of my life that I wouldn't amount to anything, that I wouldn't be able to get higher education. So Memphis really was the fact that I was able to get through it really told me like I can actually do this, It was, I had some of my instructors I still remember to this day. Curtis Cates, we only had him, unfortunately, for a short period of time before he passed while we were in school. But I still remember that class. I remember Brother Elkins. We had him for the book of Matthew. And man, that brother could just quote the entire book almost, Brother Liddell's jokes.
Oh man. Yeah.
So
his dry jokes.
Right. He was actually our director when we first got there, and then Brother BJ Clark took over after that. So, it was great.
Well, and that's cool because we kind of span that same time frame. We graduated in 2009. Brother Liddell was, directing then, and it was Brother Clark's first year as an instructor. And so, so that kind of, you hit that end of that changeover, and I caught the first end of that part of that. But when we think about the school, and you mentioned something that I hadn't really thought about in a while, the fact that, there are folks that come from all different backgrounds, to come into the school And it can be a culture shock. And we have a lot of foreign students right now. You know, it's probably a culture shock for them.
Well, I'm sure.
Certainly. But, you know, just coming from different parts of the country. And as we've been traveling, you know, with the 416 Ministries and meeting congregations and meeting people from different areas of the country too, you know, it's been a little bit of a shock even for us, you know, in a good way, though, to meet and to know brethren from different cultures and backgrounds. It's kind of helped broaden our sense of the church, broaden our sense of the kingdom in a little bit larger way, I think. But it really kind of helped us, I think, ultimately in ministry and local work and things like that. It kind of transferred into that. And though I'd been preaching a while, I think it really helped us in that sense. And think about your experience. And you mentioned Jake, and there's a lot of guys there, you know, in your class, and I'm friends with some of those same guys, so I love them. You know, when we think about maybe the time that you were in school, was there anything that surprised you? Not just the culture, you know, in the South and things like that, but from the school perspective itself, that's translated into local work that might have helped you in some way.
I mean, there's probably a lot of things that I think tools that I've been able to use. But I would say really just being that I'm from an area where you pretty much meet just about every culture, pretty much in the world lives here, you know, will pass through here at some point. So just being able to meet people that are outside my comfort level, you know, outside my vernacular. Cause I mean, you know, Southern talk is very much different than what I'm used to out here. I mean, granted, I mean, Randy Mabe, who was my minister growing up, I mean, he's from the South, so he still has his accent, you know, still there.
He was out here for a long time.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
shake it.
Good old Tennessee boy. You know, so I kind of got that, but I mean, even his, you know, language kind of changed being here for so long. But yeah, just getting to just seeing the type of, I would say, family atmosphere, the depth of generations of families who have been in the church. We're not really used to that here in the West. Most, you know, families out here in the West, I mean, they're literally coming from the world. And their families are being introduced for the first time. Their kids are older, you know, it's very interesting to see that generation, you know, generational Christians. It's really, really cool to see.
Yeah, and I think one time I had gone to the lectureship. This is before we had gone to school, and Brother Bland, he, you know, said, "Yeah, you can stay with some of our students," and so he put me in an apartment, and there was a guy that was French Canadian, there was a guy from the Philippines, and a guy from South Africa. And so you're talking about culture shock from a boy from the South, you know, to come and to room with those guys for the week. But it was one of the best weeks that I remember. We just had a ball, you know. It was very cool. But it is eye opening, culture wise. It makes a difference, obviously, in how you preach, how you present, and those kind of things, and how you minister ultimately.
I think just by me being there was also a help to the other students, because most of them never met anybody from the West, you know, let alone another Christian from the West. You know, most of them haven't. So, I mean, I think it was just shocking just telling people where I was from. You know, like, there's a church out there. Like, yeah, they're right, yes. Right, exactly, right. You know, we you know, this building is actually in the casino right now. You can't see it. You know, but, you know, I think that kind of help some of the students, you know, realize like, hey, you know, we're out here, you know, and the church is still strong. We're smaller in number, probably more, you know, we don't really have a lot of congregations that are over 100 people, but, you know, the church is still strong out here. There's some really great brethren out here.
And that's what I've, you know, realizing and talking to you and talking to some other folks, you know, in the area. I think it's interesting to see different, you know, geographical areas, but how the church is, you know, has its struggles, but still thriving in a good way. So let's talk about Oakey Boulevard. Let's talk about the church here. And, I know it has a long-standing history in the community. But I'll think about your work here. You've been here 3 years, but you also grew up here.
Yeah.
How does that work?
Right. Well, first of all, I think we kind of abuse what Jesus said about a prophet's not welcome in his own country or town. It's a general rule. Sometimes it doesn't work out, and that was one of the fears. So I have been ministering most of my time in California. And so this was my first work outside of California, other than, working with congregations while I was in school. So first of all, I never thought we would leave California. And I never thought that I would be back here, let alone. But the last 3 years, when I first was brought on, this congregation pretty much only wanted me to, do the preaching and teaching. They really have more expectations than that. Really my role, since I've been working with the leadership here, my role has been more of figuring out what my place is here, which is kind of different. I think a lot of, especially when you have a congregation with elders, we unfortunately don't have them as of now. But I think, usually, the congregation will send out an advertisement of exactly what they want. Right. That's not what happened with me. As one preacher was leaving that also grew up here, they pretty much just started talking to me. So they didn't have to go out and look, right. So we've been kind of figuring out what my role is here, other than just the teaching and preaching. But one of the passions that I've had since I've been back, since I've been working with an organization outside of this congregation, I've been working with it's a faith-based group. I don't know if we would necessarily agree, with their theology and things of that nature, but what impressed me about this group is that they are very much about mental health. They're about coaching, counseling, just areas that I think that unfortunately, 2 years at a preaching school is just not gonna cut. The focus there was on preaching and teaching. It wasn't so much on counseling, even though we talked about it, in Brother Greider's class. So I'm sure, like a lot of preachers, man, like some of the situations that we're in, we're like, where was this? We weren't told about this, and I felt that I wasn't prepared for a lot of it. And so I started my own journey going through my, courses that I found. One of the major ones was the American Association of Christian Counseling. I did a lot of my studies through them. And recently graduated from a few of their programs, and I still have one more to go. But working with this company has really inspired me to do that, and to really help in pastoral care and things of that nature. So I've been really focused a lot on that. We are in the process of hopefully even having, as far as like AA groups that will be meeting here. I've been counseling, coaching people, both in the congregation and also within the community, and we want to kind of expand that and continue to work and do that. So that's been a passion of mine, and I think it's been really good for the congregation.
And do you see that kind of as the one of the main focuses for evangelism in an area like this that's probably difficult in some ways to evangelize? Right. So we're hoping that this will be a way to outreach. One of our brothers, his name is Dean Munoz. Big guy, can't miss him. Like his personality is just, it's contagious. Nice. As you know, he talks to you while you preach. Absolutely. I love that brother to death. He is actually, and not to tell his full story, but he came from a really rough path. And when he learned the gospel, probably, I want to say maybe 10, 12 years ago, it really changed his life. And because of that, he's actually, over time, as a lot of his guys that he used to roll with are coming out of the prison system,
and trying to change their life. He's been catching them just before they got out.
That's good.
And so in studying with them while they were in prison, while they got out of prison, and first stop when they come out is right here.
That's good.
And we've baptized many of them. And they're, plugged in, and they're active with our congregation, and I know these guys want to also help in that way. And so we see it as an evangelistic tool.
That's great.
I think one of the fears, of course, is, we're definitely going to look very different than probably most congregations. But I tell the congregation all the time, that's all right.
Yeah.
We need to look more like our community.
Yeah.
And sometimes we don't, we kind of look more like a distant neighborhood,
Right.
far away. But I think our congregation is looking more and more like our community, and we're reaching our community probably in a way that, a lot of congregations may not think about,
Yeah. And I think when you think about a lot of what we talk about with 416 is trying to get plugged in.
Yeah.
Trying to not just congregationally is get plugged into the community. Yeah. That's one of the big things that we're working on, but we want to help congregations to, find those individuals who are ready to serve and want to serve and have a passion to serve. A lot of them have backgrounds that lead into, a different way of serving, and such as this brother as well, and I think that's healthy for a congregation. That's what you want to see. And so it's natural that the congregation is going to look different, maybe than what we're used to. That's okay. I think that's a great way to put that. And, one thing that Cindy and I, we try to, talk about it, edifying and encouraging congregations and individuals, and certainly preachers and preaching families. And we don't have to get into the details of this, but we talked about some things the other night, even that, we've gone through in our past, and things like that, things that we've faced as ministers, in those situations that have been difficult for us. They shape us. They mold us into who we are today, obviously, those experiences. But going through the things, in ministry, is there something that has, when you were discouraged or when you were down and out in some way, not sure what was coming next, or something that really helped you kind of get through those situations? I think that's helpful for anybody listening, whether a preacher or not, just to know that, okay, we go through struggles too. And so there's something that really helped you kind of get over the hump, so to speak, keep your faith and keep moving forward.
Yeah. So just briefly, we had a pretty rough time, in our ministries in California. Not to say that, there are a lot of ministries out there that are doing quite well.
Sure.
We had never been at a congregation for more than 3 years. This September will be the longest for us.
Yeah.
And we really haven't, I would say that really being here has been the healing for us. It's one of the things that I can say, especially about this congregation, is that they have been such an encouragement to me, by letting me know that I matter, that there is value here, and that they're not. And one of the tools I would say that they, especially being at my hometown congregation, one of the fears that you have is, well, we saw you in diapers. Like, what do you got to tell me?
Right.
But they don't treat me that way.
Yeah,
they respect me. I'm not saying that the other groups didn't, but I think one of the problems I had was we didn't feel respected. We didn't feel valued. We felt disposable almost.
Yeah.
So being here, I had so many times being here, and I don't know why it just won't go away. But I'm glad that my congregation kind of reminds me. But there have been so many times where I've gone in that pulpit and I was like afraid the entire week, for, what I'm about to say to this congregation, like they won't take it well. You know, they won't take it well. And that's part of my experience. Like I've been called out in the middle of a Bible class, like not in a respectful way, like somebody yelling at me, you know, like you stop that, you know, so I'm expecting that here, you know, I'm expecting the shoe to drop, so to speak. But every time I present a lesson that I think is going to be like my I'm moving out lesson, you know, as our instructor said, that moving lesson, but it's not them that moved, it's you. Every time that happens, I'll stand back there and I'm just waiting. And it's funny how many of the members will come to me and say, you know, I've always believed that, you know, I've always seen it that way. Or I've never heard that before. Thank you, you know, or even when it's something that maybe somebody doesn't agree with, they don't yell at me. They don't, you know, call me names. They don't say you're the worst preacher on the scum of the earth. You know, I mean, they're very encouraging here, you know. So, I mean, this has been really, it's been a godsend being back, you know.
So the congregation here is a good healing place.
Yes, it has been.
Yeah,
it has been.
And it's probably has a tendency to be that way for others from different backgrounds as well, coming through here, you know, those maybe who have messed up even in the past, obviously, you know, talking about a place to heal, a place to grow, and then to turn around to be a place to serve. And I think that's beautiful, thinking about the congregation. I think Cindy has a question for us as well.
Yes, I do. So usually I ask about coffee shops and stuff like that, but we've been here for a week, so I've scoped out what I can, and it's disappointing.
I'm so sorry.
Coffee scene, but no. So Las Vegas obviously has a stigma in everyone's mind.
Yes.
And so when we were coming, I, of course, was like scouring, what can we do? We don't drink, we don't gamble, we don't, you know, because that's in my mind all that everybody's doing. You know,
that's what we do. Our office workers, you know, that's all we do.
And so for me, I think if there is a family, maybe they're coming out this way for vacation and they would have a couple of days and they're visiting here at Oakey and they need to just spend some time doing some things. What are some recommendations for families, for anybody, you know, that's just coming through and have a few days? Obviously, we want them to come here and visit y'all. Yeah, right. But what else could they do while they're here that's safe and that's fun? And
so we actually have a children's museum that is close to the Strip. It's not on the Strip. It's actually close to the downtown area. My family, we go all the time. There's actually a discount that they give. One of the programs that's out this way, I think it's nationwide, called WIC, for mothers that are nursing and things of that nature. They actually give discounts, and so we can take the kids for like, I think like $3 or something like that. So it's a fun experience. We try to do that a lot. Especially when we have family and friends coming with kids. That's what we try to do that. Man, most of what we do here is eat. Like we just love eating. Yeah, there's plenty of eating to do. We have some awesome parks out here. Especially on the west side, we have some amazing parks. We have the M&M factory out here. They actually show you how they make the chocolate, so you can actually see the process. I mean, we have a lot of different shows. I mean, most of the time, a lot of people think that, the only shows are, people stripping or something. Like, no, that we have some really amazing shows out here. One of the, Circus LA, Circus Des, I'm probably saying it wrong. They have some awesome shows that we love seeing. So yeah, there's a lot to do here. You really just have to look.
Right.
Yeah.
We went out to Red Rock Canyon.
Yeah.
If you like to hike
yes.
and stuff like that.
Red Rock Canyon.
There's lots of camping areas available if you have an RV or something. Right. And we went down and saw some sites yesterday, and there's so much parking for big vehicles that you don't usually have in a city.
Yeah.
So that's a convenience if you're just kind of coming through and staying for a couple of days and had to pull your camper through somewhere. There's even garage parking for it.
Right. Yeah, we have a lot of campgrounds for RVs and stuff like that. So yeah.
Yeah. We visited the Hoover Dam too while we were here. That's not very far. I think it's 30 minutes, 40 minutes away or something like that.
Great.
Lake Mead area, you know, and all that.
Yeah.
It's gorgeous out there. Really, it's and definitely an area to take family. You need to experience that and see it. It's pretty tremendous. So.
Right. We're really not far from a lot of things. I know people that will take day trips to Southern California, come back.
Yeah.
We're probably about 4 hours away from there. We're 2 hours away from the Grand Canyon. You know, so I mean, there's quite a bit
Death Valley in the other direction.
So don't go during the summer, but just
for sure.
That is perfect because you can fly into Vegas pretty cheap.
Yes.
And then,
we're cheap.
There's a sound congregation here, and then you can just disperse from here and go to different places.
Right.
Thank you.
Yeah. Appreciate you sitting down with us.
Absolutely.
And I appreciate being here with you and getting, kind of catching up and getting to know each other a little bit better.
Yeah.
And I appreciate the work that you're doing here and appreciate this congregation for allowing me to preach, while I'm here too. That's always a good thing. So we will include.
Maybe mention about foundations and how this congregation has been a part of foundations from the beginning.
Yeah, absolutely. Early on, there's a lot of guys and gals, I guess, that have gone through gone to foundations, the Memphis School of Preaching, and a teen program, if you will, and to have come from here. And a lot of those would always kind of fly back a day early because they had to go to Yosemite Bible camp. This is the next week. But we've loved all those folks coming through here, and that's been a benefit, I think, probably because they get that training too. Even as teenagers, those are servants, you know, and I love the fact, we've kind of mentioned just off camera, the history with that. Some of those, have gone away, but have come back to the church, and there was some good teaching that they had, and those families I know worried over them and, were concerned with that. But it's, to have that extra teaching and that extra bond with, their peers, through the kingdom, I think was probably a good help bringing them back. Yeah. And so I think that's important. Every congregation, has a history to it. But when you start thinking about their work throughout the brotherhood, certainly, Brother Randy May was out here for years and years, and did a wonderful work, and held the line out here, and did a lot of great teaching. And so very thankful for this congregation and working in this area, being a beacon of light in an area that has a stigma, as Cindy mentioned too,
we've been here since '62.
Yeah.
So
and I think that's a tremendous thing to think about, a congregation that could have fallen easily to the side in an area that is kind of it's a hard work in many ways. But this congregation's working and getting the work done, and working with a Spanish congregation in the area too, and so that meet here in the building. And so there's a lot that's going on. And so check out the Oakey Blvd congregation. We'll have links in the description below and for all of our 416 links as well. And make sure that you like, subscribe, follow along, give us a rating, do all those things that are going to help us get the word out to so many other people. Thanks for following. We'll see you further down the road.